So I'm going to teach you how to make something a little bit like this rod holder, largely using curves and then turning them into meshes. To start off, I'm going to use a curve, a Bezier curve, and I'm going to turn this into the pipe that goes around the outside. Initially it's got some crazy looking curves on it, so I'm going to go to edit mode and I'm going to highlight all and I'm going to scale to 0. S for scale, Z for Z-axis, 0, and then scale Y, 0. You'll notice it was the Y-axis that I needed to change. So this is a curved line and each one has handles and you can move these around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to extrude this one, looking from the top, pushing 7. I'm going to extrude from the top, E. I'm going to drop it with a right click, and then G, X, and that's going to pull out. So you can now see I've got an extra piece of line. This handle here is much longer than the others, so I'm just making a slight adjustment here. It's really difficult to see these on screen, so I'm going to just jump ahead slightly, and the curve has, the Bezier curve has some settings that I can change. So this Bezier curve, firstly I'm going to change fill to from half to full. That won't make any difference yet because we can't see it. A few other settings. We're going to essentially turn it into a round pipe. So I'll show you what a few of these do. If I was to change this offset to 0.1 and push enter, can't see anything yet. Bevel 0.1, push enter, and then have a look. So this is, believe it or not, it's a piece of pipe. We can see it's got 4 sides. If it was on half, you'd only see one side. So we're going full, and we're also going to increase the resolution. One little click makes it 6-sided. 2, you can see we just add more. So that is sufficient for my purposes. If we look at these offset, we're going to see, hey, what is it doing? That's off to the side, so that's perhaps not what we're after. Change that back to 0. Extrude would make it a wider pipe, so if that's what you're after, choose that. So looking from the top again, I'm going to grab this handle and I'm going to rotate in the Z-axis 90 degrees. R, Z, 90. Push enter. And then I'm going to pull this. I'm going to make sure every time I'm using these handles so I don't get crazy looking bends. This handle here on the end, I'm just going to box select and grab this one. I'm going to bring it down and I'm going to line it up with this other handle so I get a reasonable looking curve. I'm going to squash this one across here until I like the aesthetics of that curve. Then I'm going to take this one and I'm going to extrude in the y-axis, E, and then drop it, G, y-axis, and then I'm going to pull it out. It's really important that I space these out around about even. So I've done one curve. I'm not going to replicate this over and over again. What I am going to do is make some adjustments so that looks like a nice even curve. So that's the same length as that, and they would meet as you imagine in a corner. I'm going to use a modifier. I'm going to use mirror modifier. So that's mirrored in the x-axis, and you'll see that there's a little bit of overlap. So my center object here, I'm going to go GX, oops, highlight the whole thing, GX, and then it will start to pull apart. So I'm interested in getting that to join, GX, and prop that in here, and then they won't come apart. Don't want it to overlap too much. So then I'm going to apply a second axis, and I'm going to go GY and pull, oops, I'll turn clipping off for a moment, GY, and I'm going to box select that one, pull it in a bit, highlight all. Now my reference picture isn't a plan. I just have to eyeball it until I'm happy with how that's going to look. GY and pull that apart I'm okay with that. Turn clipping back on, grab that handle, GY, until they are stuck together. So that essentially is my perimeter wire pipe. So this Bezier curve I'm going to call perimeter pipe. And I'm going to use that because I've got all the settings the way I want to make this railing pipe. So just temporarily I'm going to highlight all of that. I'm going to duplicate, Shift D, and then I'm going to drop it, GZ, and pull it up. Now for this one, I'm going to highlight just the top, and I'm going to separate that. Curve, separate. Okay, so now that is a separate piece, and this perimeter pipe I'm going to rename as being rail pipe. I'm only going to use one of those, not both of those mirrors. So then I will grab this end and pull down. I'm going to zoom in to make sure I've pull that up, and I'm happy with that. Okay, now if I look at the reference picture, those rod holders are off on an angle, so that's telling me I need to grab this and pull it out a little bit to give myself some space to put some rod holder tubes in here. I'll come back to this a little bit later, but for now I'm going to add in a rod holder. I'm going to change this down, don't need that much geometry. That's suitable. Tab into edit mode. Couple of subdivisions, take that face off and that face off. Going to add some modifiers and make the faces smooth shading so that'll look better. I'm going to make a little black end. So extrude Z axis, might separate this and make it a separate piece, but that's a little bit too much hassle. Extrude scale, extrude Z axis, pull down, extrude scale, and I think that'll do. Recalculate that. Nope, that's gone inside out. Going to test which way around those normals are. So that part's separate, and I can probably recalculate that a little bit better now. Recalculate, so they're all facing the way I want them to. I'm going to make that black. This is not a texturing tutorial. I've already set up some other materials, so I'm going to go plus, and then choose black plastic. So I've got black plastic there, and then assign. I'll test that in rendered mode. So I've got a black plastic assigned, and then this one, just going to take that and extrude Z axis down, scale in, extrude Z axis down. So that's the highlight all of that. one's just a bit too big. And from there to there, I might edge loop, bridge the edge loops. Don't probably need to, can't see it inside of there because the pipe's in the way, so I just leave it alone. Looking from the top, looks a little bit funky there. Take that cylinder, scale it up just ever so slightly. Yep, can't see it now, problem solved. Going to rejoin these, 1, 2, and then Control J to rejoin. And this part, highlighting that by pushing L. This one is going to have stainless steel on it, which I've already made. I'm going to unwrap that. Unwrap, Smart UV Project, probably works fine. We'll just do a little test over here though. There we go, nice. Unwrap that. That looks sufficient. Right, so we've got a rod holder made, so I'm going to call that rod tube. Then I'm going to use an array modifier to put that in the right place. Just noticed how much I dislike the shape of that pipe there. GX, look from the top, GX, I think that curve's a bit nicer. So now that I have my pipe made, I feel okay with rotating it. So I'm going to rotate in the x-axis. So I'm looking from the side, wireframe, G, Y, and I'm okay with that lining up. A little bit touching, so no gap. A little bit touching, no gap. I'm going to use the array modifier, add modifier array, and that's going in the direction I don't want. I might just move it across to here, increase that to an appropriate number, so that's a larger offset in the x-axis, so this line is x, this is y, and this is z, and I'm going to increase the number, and I think 4 will do. The reference picture has 4, so we'll go with 4, and I'm going to just space that out nicely and possibly increase. Yep, that works. And I'm happy with the shape of those pipes, so I'm going to take that again and Shift D and right click and drop it, G, Z. Now the reason I'm duplicating that is it's got exactly the same settings, so I'm going to reuse that and turn it into maybe some of these struts down here. So this part is connected, but if I edit mode, box select to make sure it's only the bottom, separate that again, and into edit mode. Probably don't need this mirror anymore, so what I think I'll do is delete that end. Nice straight pipe there, rotate Y 90, and it happens to be lined up to that end. It's not quite what I want though, looking from the top, and then this way. I could keep using that pipe that size. I think this is a different thickness, and if I want to I could increase that, increase my depth. That's going to give me a little bit of a misalignment, so perhaps you could put a pipe across the bottom, but I'm just going to drag that in and no one will see it. And then I'm going to use Alt-D to duplicate a linked copy. Alt-D and GX and bring that across to here. Don't want it popping outside, just there is fine. The reason I've done Alt-D is they are linked. So if I grab one side, it does both. Can't grab the left side. So we're going to use those. Next part we're going to do is essentially turn these curves into meshes. So highlight that and press space, type convert. Convert to, and I'm going to choose, make sure you get the right one, to mesh from curve data. So in the edit mode you can see it's now a mesh. It's now a nice little pipe, easy to use. I'm going to mark that seam, Control E, mark seam, highlight all, U, unwrap, and that one's unwrapped. Now this one has mirrors on it, so it's ever so slightly more complicated. So we look at this mirror. I think I need to apply that first, but I'll try just converting it as it is. But we'll go with, I think, apply. Can't do it in that way. Can't apply constructive modifiers on a curve, so it looks like I have to convert it first. Convert to mesh, and then I'm going to check to make sure there's no errors where the mirrors were joining. Check for doubles. No doubles, that's good. In the middle there, it looks all nicely connected. Cool, I'm happy with that. If they don't line up perfectly, then you may find you have some problems. Okay, I'm happy with that. So I'm going to mark a seam around there, Control E, mark seam, and one there, Control E, mark seam, highlight all, U, unwrap, and that's unwrapped. Happy with that one. And again, same with this curve here. Spacebar, convert, convert to, choose mesh, tab, and then I'm going to mark the seam around the bottom where it's harder to see. I don't think anyone's going to look at it from this angle. Alt click, and then Control E, mark seam. I don't need to mark one around the pipe because it's not a continuous pipe. Highlight all. I'm going to actually make it the same part. Control J. So that's now the perimeter pipe. It's one part, and they're all the seams are marked. So U, unwrap, and we'll just check it in on that. And there they are, all looking like pipes. Looks like one of the curves is a little bit squashed. I think that'll be okay for my purposes. Could test the stretch though. Doesn't look stretched. Happy with that. Get my material, new, choose stainless steel. It's been already made, and assign. So that's all stainless steel. Tab out of there. This one, new, and stainless steel, and it's being used 3 times. So once for this pipe, once for this pipe, and once for the rod holder. Next thing is to make, it does both. Can't grab the left side, so we're going to use those. Next part we're going to do is essentially turn these curves into meshes. So highlight that and press space, type convert, convert to, and I'm going to choose, make sure you get the right one, to mesh from curve data. So in the edit mode you can see it's now a mesh. It's now a nice little pipe, easy to use. I'm going to mark that seam, Control E, mark seam, highlight all, U, unwrap, and that one's unwrapped. Now this one has mirrors on it, so it's ever so slightly more complicated. So we look at this mirror. I think I need to apply that first, but I'll try just converting it as it is. But we'll go with, I think, apply. Can't do it in that way. Can't apply constructive modifiers on a curve, so it looks like I have to convert it first. Convert to mesh. and then I'm going to check to make sure there's no errors where the mirrors were joining. Check for doubles. No doubles, that's good. In the middle there, it looks all nicely connected. Cool, I'm happy with that. If they don't line up perfectly, then you may find you have some problems. Okay, I'm happy with that. So I'm going to mark a seam around there, Control E, mark seam, and one there, Control E, mark seam, highlight all, U, unwrap, and that's unwrapped. Happy with that one. And again, same with this curve here. Spacebar, convert to, choose mesh, tab, and then I'm going to mark the seam around the bottom where it's harder to see. I don't think anyone's going to look at it from this angle. Alt click, and then Control E, mark seam. I don't need to mark one around the pipe because it's not a continuous pipe. Highlight all. I'm going to actually make it the same part. Control J. So that's now the perimeter pipe. It's one part, and they're all the seams are marked. So you unwrap, and we'll just check in on that. And there they are, all looking like pipes. Looks like one of the curves is a little bit squashed. I think that'll be okay for my purposes. Could test the stretch though. Doesn't look stretched. Happy with that. Get my material, new, choose stainless steel. It's been already made, and assign. So that's all stainless steel. Tab out of there. This one, new, in stainless steel, and it's being used 3 times. So once for this pipe, once for this pipe, and once for the rod holder. Next thing is to make the white plastic base. So I'm going to look from the top, insert a plane, just going to do one side and use a mirror modifier. Like that, pull out to the edge. Actually past the edge. GZ, bring it up to the height. So it overlaps front and back, but not on the side. Going to tab into edit, already in edit mode. Go. I'm going to put the cursor there. Cursor to selected. Object mode. Origin, set origin to 3D cursor, so that means it will mirror from that point correctly. Add modifier mirror, so there we go, there's my mirror, and then I'm going to start subdividing that. W, subdivide, maybe once more, and it's sufficient I think. Going to give it some nice little edge. Technically I could just do one corner, but for this I'm just going to do half. Could do quarter and multiply it, mirror twice. So that will do for that. And then I'm going to add another modifier, and that's going to be solidify, and that's going to give me the thickness of my plastic. I'll go on 0.1. Now the order of these matters. I've got multiple modifiers, so I'm also going to add a subdivision surface, and because the subdivision surface is below, then it doesn't pull apart. If I move that up, then it pulls apart, and I don't want that. So mirror first, then solidify, and then subsurf. That order is best. So mirror first, then solidify, and then subsurf. That order is best. And this subsurf I'm going to turn up for the final render. Just test if I'm happy with that. Yeah, I'm happy, but I don't want it to lag, so I'm just going to turn it down. And then I'm going to go to face select and get these ones. and I'm going to extrude in the Z-axis. That didn't work so well. I must have a little face in here. Again, it's about the order of this, so maybe if I move that down. No. Okay, so I'm going to apply the mirror, and then I'm going to bring this down, EZ, and that gives me my sunken in part of my bait board. I think that's probably not quite wide enough. SX, should have checked that earlier. GX, SX, a little bit jumpy. Don't really want it touching there. SX, and GX. Okay, so there's my plastic bait board. Going to make that look plastic. Just going to go U, unwrap, smart UV project. Okay. Make a new material, choose one I've made already, white plastic, and I'm going to jump into rendered mode. It's looking very, very blue. I've got some other things already here in another layer, so I'm going to move them across. Got a plane and a camera and some lights. Even to move, put them in the first layer. Jump into rendered mode. So I've got a rod holder with a white plastic insert. I can look through the camera. It's not quite lined up yet. I like to use lock camera to view, and that makes life a bit easier to move the camera around. Undo lock camera to view, adjust my render settings, and do a test render.